Welcome to YourBostonSports.com. I'm Rob Goodwin, along with my co-host John Korn.
Good evening, everybody.
July 30th, 2015, one day before the trade deadline happens.
Hours away, yep.
Less than 24 hours away.
Yep, 4 o'clock tomorrow.
And before we get to some of the deals that were made, including a couple of moves by the Red Sox, although no trades yet, you were at the ceremony for Pedro Martinez at Fenway Park, where they retired his number the other night.
Saw Pedro's number retired, yep.
I want to get your thoughts on the night. I mean, most people watched it on TV or saw it on the web.
It was great. It was great. He was Pedro. You know, he not only the greatest pitcher I ever saw, he was the most colorful personality I ever saw. You know, he was like Louis T on ×4. You know. Performance-wise and the way he handled himself. And it was surprising about it, all the old-timers that came out, guys that weren't even there, guys like Yaz and Evans and Fisk. He wasn't even in the major leagues yet when they were playing, and they all came out to honor him. And some of his old teammates, Veritek was there. Yeah, it was just nice.
Louis and the two Alou brothers.
Alou, his first manager, Felipe Alou. Schilling was there.
Was interesting.
Keith Falk, no Keith Falk. I thought we might see him, but we didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
What was interesting to me was that you always heard that in 2004 Schilling and Pedro did not get along. Whether it was ego, two number ones. I don't know what your
you hear things like that, but what you hear and what really goes on, we know that's not always the same thing.
But what I did hear that's in his book, which I have not read yet, by the way. I do have a copy on the shelf, as you know, of Pedro's book.
Good book.
Did you read it?
I read parts of it.
So what's the deal about when, and I saw this video on YouTube, when Pedro was pitching for Montreal and Schilling was pitching for the Phillies. Apparently there was some beanball going on between the Phillies and the Expos. Pedro was pitching that day. Schilling was not. And when Pedro got up to bat, they threw at him.
Oh, yeah.
Benches cleared.
Yeah.
Now, what I read in the paper was that, according to Pedro's book, that Schilling grabbed his choke chain and started choking him. and I'm thinking, well, maybe that's why they didn't quite get along in Boston in 2004, Yeah. But they seemed very chummy. During the ceremony,
they were having a blast.
Look, Schilling's been through a lot,
cancer,
the business, obviously the mouth cancer, and so things change. People's outlook on life changes.
It was a riot when he came out. He gave him a kiss on the top of the head.
Yeah,
Pedro threw his head back and started laughing, cracking up. Yeah, they were just having a good time.
Yeah.
It was his old teammate. He won a World Series with him.
Right.
I mean, come on.
Now, one thing I noticed.
Of course, they're close now.
Yeah. One thing I noticed, which was very cool to me, was that they didn't give Pedro anything of real value. There were they didn't give him any cars.
You're right.
They didn't give him a pickup truck. They didn't give him a Corvette. They gave him things that had meaning, and I thought that was
foundations. They donated to his foundation.
Right.
Yeah.
And they also gave him things that would be meaningful to him, from his career.
Did you notice who he acknowledged?
I know he acknowledged.
Number one, God. Number two, his parents. Number three is he acknowledged his opponents. He pointed to the White Sox in the dugout. He goes, "You guys brought the best out of it. My opponent that was in the opposite." Mm-hmm. It was always in the opposite dugout are the ones that brought the best out of me. They made a competitor out of me.
Yeah.
He acknowledged everybody.
And he also acknowledged and gave a big hug to the scout that discovered him.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for that guy, huh?
He had it all. He had everything. He had 5 pitches, from what I understand, 5. And he had the exact same arm speed and arm angle for each pitch. In other words, the hitter had no idea what was coming at him until the ball was in midair. And he's. Have you ever seen a more colorful personality in sports?
No.
No.
So
he had everything.
Yeah.
He had it all.
So there's some players that leave Boston and at the end of their careers or afterwards, they say, gee, if I'd only stayed in Boston, I would have maybe made the Hall of Fame, would have contributed to something really special beyond, what they had accomplished, whether it be Fred Lynn. I mean, Carlton Fisk made the Hall of Fame regardless, though he didn't win a World Series. But a testament to Pedro is that he left after a World Series, and had he stayed, I mean, he would have won another one.
Yeah.
You got to admit that. But, he left. He didn't win another one, but yet he did finish that career in great fashion, Hall of Fame career,
Yep.
Played at a very high level. I mean, he did have some injuries, but he did play at a very high level, and it was fortunate enough to, he left, but he still, continued his career at a very high level and made the Hall of Fame, unlike some other players who've left Boston and weren't so lucky.
And another thing with Pedro is when he was at the peak of his career in the late 90s, 2000, around then, that was one of the few times in baseball history where the part of it was the alleged steroid era, but also the strike zone was very, very small. It was from the belt to the knees. Mm-hmm. Okay, the batter had control of the game back then, and he still struck out 300 batters.
Yeah,
he was just absolutely filthy. He was amazing.
His ERA differential of, I think, 2+ runs was just unheard of.
Unheard of.
Especially in the era that he played.
They'll be talking about him 20 years from now the way they talk about Koufax now.
Mm-hmm.
Pedro Martinez.
Right.
He had that much of an impact on the game. And there's some things about him you'll never see anybody do again. Mm-hmm. Like when he came in for relief in Game 5 of the ALCS against Cleveland.
Yep.
And his back was hurting so bad he was actually throwing it at a different angle. And Jimmy Williams told him not to go out. He's gonna injure himself permanently.
Yeah.
And he did anyway.
Yep.
And he pitched a no-hitter for 6 innings. Just stuff like that.
Right. And then he went out in the ALCS against the Yankees with no arm at all, and the Red Sox beat the Yankees and Roger Clemens 13-1.
13-1. You were at that game.
I was at that game. Yeah. And then, as we've said before, you and I were at the game prior to that Cleveland game. We were at game 4
Was
of
that game
series.
4?
Yeah, that's Sunday night. Yeah.
You remember who started for Cleveland that day? Bartolo Colon.
That's right, Bartolo Colon.
He's still pitching
for all you Mets fans out there. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that 6-inning performance was unbelievable. Now, you didn't see Pedro, obviously, when you were at the game. He was in the booth for about 2 innings or an inning and a half with Don and Jerry. And I think it was Don that asked him, what's the most memorable performance of your career? And I think it was a game against Kansas City where, he gave up some runs in the first inning, but then committed to. I guess the bullpen was really short. They really needed him badly to pitch deep into the game, and he gave up runs in the first inning, but stayed in the game. Mm-hmm. I think he pitched 8 and allowed the offense to claw back and win. And he said he took it upon himself to do that for his teammates because the bullpen, I guess, over a period of a couple of days was really spent and overtaxed, and he takes great pride in that effort. And I thought for sure he was going to say the one hitter in Yankee Stadium where the only hit he gave up was a home run by Chili Davis, but he didn't say that game. He said this one in Kansas City, which that shows you.
Interesting. I don't remember that.
That shows you what's meaning to. Well, see, I don't think anyone remembers it, but he does.
Yeah.
Because he
he knows how he felt before the game, and he had to give it 120%.
Right. And I think he was probably. I'm guessing he was disappointed in giving up runs in the first inning, but then he just said, "I got to do this for my teammates. I got to stay in this game and lock the game down." And he did.
Just an amazing, not just an amazing pitcher, an amazing person, and he defied everything.
Yep.
He really did. He did it all.
So the Red Sox made a couple of moves today. They designated Daniel Nava for assignment.
Yeah.
Kind of no real surprise there.
No. Was he batting about 150 or something?
Well, Farrell's comments were that he really played a big part in 2013, and then in 2014 he was kind of having some issues, so he was sent down to AAA, and came back second half, kind of ironed things out and did well. But it seems like he kind of fell into, a little bit of inconsistency this year, and then the thumb injury. So kind of things went the opposite direction for him.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people say that the fact that he made the major leagues at all should be made into a movie.
Yeah, because he wasn't even he didn't even make his college team, did he?
No, he did not.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't even he wasn't not only not supposed to be a major league player. He wasn't even supposed to be a professional.
Right.
He had nothing.
He was playing independent league, and I guess the Red Sox purchased him from the independent league team for $1.
No kidding.
Yeah, for $1. Yeah. So they said that could be made into a movie. That's a very, very unlikely story.
Yeah.
So we wish him the best. Maybe the Sox will be able to make a trade, or I would think someone will pick him up.
Yeah.
And they also
it's almost like a story you might hear about some 30-year-old that tried out for a team and made it.
Yeah.
By some fluke. It's almost like that.
Yep. And then now Sandy Leone was put on waivers last week. Nobody claimed him. Great defensive catcher. Nobody claimed him, so he's been outrighted to AAA. And Tommy Lane's been sent down to AAA. They brought up a couple young arms. And the reason why they brought up a couple young arms, they need fresh arms. That's how bad, as you pointed out, their starting pitching has been. They need fresh arms because the bullpen is dead.
I have never seen – I can't recall a pitching staff this bad. Can you?
No.
I mean, Buchholz is out, and the rest of them are horrible. There's nobody. They got nothing right now.
And not only that, but is this the worst pitching staff you've seen that you thought was going to be pretty good?
I thought they were going to be.
I mean,
I thought they were going to be pretty good, fair to middle and okay, and they would go out and find themselves a David Shields or a Cole Hamels.
James Shields.
I'm sorry.
David Price.
James Shields, David Price, Cole Hamels, maybe find another starter,
Right.
And nothing happened, and what they had just fell apart.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't go into the season with two named starters and three. Let's just throw something up in the air and see who shows up, or see who slots in spring training. I mean, they had 4, 5, 6 guys that all had major league experience, that most had pitched 200 innings.
Let me tell you something. I agree with their philosophy. It absolutely backfired on them this year. But you don't go signing a 32-year-old guy for $150 million for 6 years. Lester, Lackey, people like that. They could have hung on to Lackey.
They could have hung on to Lackey.
Yeah.
But I don't think he wanted to pitch in Boston. No, he didn't want to stay. He didn't want to stay.
You just don't do that.
Right.
You're gonna be stuck with him. You sign a guy like Porcello. Think about this. He's 25 years old, right? He's won 14 games 3 years in a row. Is that a good investment or not? Absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
Why he's having a horrible year, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if he's injured. We don't know. It doesn't. And then Buchholz is Buchholz. He gets hurt every year. And then
Miley's not the worst acquisition you could make.
Miley's a good number 4 starter. He'll give you a couple hundred innings a year. I mean, and then you look at that lineup, right? It looks like a good lineup. On paper, they didn't look too bad.
Right.
It just didn't work this year.
A lot of people doubted Masterson, and it looks like they were right. I mean, I thought that Masterson would be okay based on the fact that he was healthy, and he's not been healthy. He was not healthy last year, but obviously that didn't pan out.
So what do you do with this pitching staff? Do you hope that they're better next year, or you go out and try to get just keep building from your farm system? What do you do?
Well, they got to figure out, and I think they've already started to do this, why in each case the starting pitchers are not pitching well. Now, I think Farrell was talking about Porcello, where he says sliders is not there. So that's a primary pitch for him. I think he was talking about Porcello. So that could be a reason why. Miley had a stretch that he was good. We went and saw him against the Yankees the Sunday before the All-Star break. He was terrible. So they got to figure out what's wrong. Now Joe Kelly, that could be a laundry list. That one's a big problem. Because Joe Kelly is supposed to have really good stuff, but look how terrible he's been. He was a triple A.
It's happened before. I'm going way, way back into the archives here. 1985. Okay. Bruce Hurst, oil can Boyd. Horrible. Clemens, surgery on his shoulder. Brand new pitcher. New superstar. He's, surgery. I think he had rotator cuff surgery. A year later, they're the best pitching staff in the East. Oil can and Hurst are good all of a sudden.
Yep. Clemens.
And Clemens came back from his injury.
Yep.
So who knows? I mean, Kelly and Porcello, they better hope Porcello figures it out because they signed him for what, 4 years?
Yeah.
5 years? And I don't know what you do with Buchholz. Just figure he's going to get injured again next year.
I'll tell you one thing you do with Buchholz, or one thing you don't do. Give him another contract.
Yeah, no.
I think if he shows any upside, whenever that may be,
let him go be a superstar in the National League or something.
Right. Send him somewhere else. Send him to Milwaukee.
But the one thing they didn't do that surprised me this year, I don't believe that the way they fell apart was their fault. I mean, they put together they got 5 starters that are good, number 2, 3, 4, 5 starters. In January anyway. They didn't go out and get a number 1. They didn't try to hang on to Lester. They didn't. They apparently didn't go after Cole Hamels. There was always talk about that from day one that the Red Sox would go after him.
And that dance has been going on since February. It was going on since February.
But they never went after anybody.
Right, they did not. Right.
So they either know something we don't, that's probably what the case is, or
Right.
I don't know. I think it just didn't work this year.
And a lot of the bullpen moves didn't work either.
Boston fans are so they get so hysterical when they have a bad year, and I know this is their second bad year in a row, but
third bad year out of 4. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah, 3 of the worst years they ever had. And in the middle of it is a world championship. It's bizarre, isn't it?
I know. And what ownership of what team would say, yeah, that's okay. We'll keep building.
Nobody.
That's a tough one.
But what's the answer? What makes
a tough one?
What makes a guy come on the team and Kelly and Porcello are the two that you come into? What makes those 2 guys come aboard and they're terrible? What happened?
Well, I mean, with Kelly, you could say, well, he pitched okay last year with the ERA of 4.5 with the Red Sox, but he's coming over from the National League. There's an extra hitter in the lineup, but I mean, if he has good stuff, he should be able to compensate for that.
Do you think sometimes these guys are injured and they don't say anything?
It could be, but I mean, that means Kelly's been injured for a long time. And
Lackey was. He was
if he was injured, wouldn't you think rather than go to AAA, just put him on the DL? If he's not going to be if he's not going to be up in Boston, give his 25 spot to somebody else. Let him get healthy. But obviously, he's been pitching the whole time down in Pawtucket.
Lackey was injured the whole time he was with Boston. He finally got the Tommy John surgery. He was out a whole year.
Yeah, right.
And he came back. He was his old self again.
Yep.
I hope something like that isn't going on with Porcello. But if it is, then they have to deal with it.
Well, I would think if he was hurt right now, don't you think that he'd be shut down? Because now you're really looking at next year. This year's done. I mean, you know.
Now, what about Sandoval and Hanley Ramirez? What do you do with these guys?
Well, the thought is that if Napoli is traded tomorrow or tonight, then what you're going to see is Hanley Ramirez play first base the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And then they're going to play Castillo in right. Again, here we go again, finding out, can he hit Major League pitching? Can they rely on him to be the right fielder next year? We're finding things out again in September because of the record.
And what do you do with Jackie Bradley? This guy, I'm telling you, this guy is the best defensive player the Red Sox ever had. And he can't hit Major League pitching. It's incredible.
I don't know if you saw the pregame tonight. I mean, it's a rain delay. I think they just started the game just now. It's 8:05 p.m. But they showed highlights of Pawtucket, and they showed Jackie Bradley Jr. throw a guy out from center field, pretty good center field, on the fly to home plate.
Yeah,
I mean, just
he's incredible.
He's incredible. I think if you find someone to take him National League, send him.
Best center fielder I ever saw.
His career batting average is 190. His career batting average is 191.
What a waste! If he can't hit major league pitching, and he's that good of a defensive center fielder, you could probably put him up against anybody ever.
Oh, I would think so. I would think so.
And he can't hit major league. That's something they may want to try to figure out. Like, why can't he hit major league pitching?
Right.
He bats over 300 in AAA. Is it that much different?
Well, apparently, and like one other question I have is, where's Alan Craig right now? Why is Alan Craig up? I assume he will be September 1st.
Yeah.
But that that's a whole month. That's a month away. And supposedly he's been hitting AAA pitching well. That's at least that's what I understand, that he's been hitting AAA pitching pretty well.
I'm surprised that Victorino went to the Angels. I'm surprised that the Angels didn't. I'm surprised they didn't make a deal to the Angels for Hanley Ramirez. The Angels need a left fielder. Their left fielder can't hit, and they could use another bat for the postseason.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't take him off their hands, unless they know something that we don't. Maybe nobody wants him.
Right. I still think that the trade partners that are most likely with the Red Sox tonight between today and tomorrow are the Mets or the Pirates.
Why do you say that?
Well, the Pirates need hitting. Actually, maybe not the Mets, because the Mets, made a couple moves. They got Kelly Johnson and Uribe, so that added some offense. That added offense for them.
Our old friend Brandon Moss went to the Cardinals.
I saw that.
Yep,
from Cleveland.
He was on the 2007 Red Sox championship team.
Yep.
Remember that?
And also, the Blue Jays made two big deals. I mean, the first one is they got Troy Tulowitzki, shortstop from Colorado.
Yeah.
And then they got David Price from the Tigers.
Wow.
Today. They're 7 games out and they're in 3rd place. But they want to make a run. Obviously, two months ago, they seriously think that there's a good chance. And Yankees put Pineda on the DL, 15-day DL today. And CC Sabathia is taking his spot.
And look what the Texas Rangers did. Look what they gave Philadelphia for Cole Hamels.
Yeah.
6 prospects. I'd never heard of anybody giving up 6 prospects.
I know.
So they want to make a run for it too.
Right.
They're giving them the bank for
exactly
for it to make a run for it. But yeah, Toronto, you might see
so
that could get interesting.
Yeah, the question is, are the Orioles going to make a move? Because they're a game ahead of Toronto right now.
Yeah.
And then look at the 2 splashes that Kansas City made. They got Cueto from the Reds. They got Ben Zobrist from the A's. I mean, they're going all in.
They're the best team in the American League.
Oh, absolutely.
No doubt about it.
Young, a bunch of young guys.
We may see a Cardinal Kansas City World Series, huh?
Do you dislike the Cardinals?
I do like the Cardinals, yeah.
I asked if you dislike them.
Do I dislike them? No.
A lot of people seem to dislike the Cardinals organization.
Oh, you love to hate the success. Patriots, Yankees, Cardinals.
Yeah.
They're the achievers. People like to criticize the real good.
But I've heard people say I can't stand the Cardinals.
They don't get the criticism the Yankees or the Dodgers or the New England Patriots get, though. They don't. I don't think people hate them like those.
I hate to say it, but and I'm not criticizing them myself. But the Patriots, as far as criticism, are in a class on their own.
Oh yeah.
How much of it is their fault?
Yankees,
being a Patriots fan, I'm going to say, how much is their doing? It probably a fair amount, right or wrong, but.
I think the Yankees probably get the most hate from they don't really do anything to cause it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Patriots cause some of their problems.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think the Yankees do. I think people hate it. They hate them because they're so successful.
If you took Deflategate out of the picture, then I don't think the Patriots would be hated as much.
Is that the most ridiculous thing you ever saw? They lost 2 draft picks, $1 million fine.
Right. I'm sorry. What I meant was Spygate.
Oh, Spygate.
If you take Spygate away, then you eliminate all this suspicion that's been going on for X number of years since that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Deflategate's ridiculous.
Well, the thing with it, they do things that it's easy to criticize you. The way Brady and Belichick behave, they don't do anything. I mean, take the Yankees for example. Right? They're very out in the open in what they're doing. They don't act like they're keeping secrets and stuff like that. That's when reporters get mad at you. Well,
because Belichick won't give them any information.
Right. Now, the Yankees, on the other hand, they'll give you information. They don't care what you think, that kind of thing. Cardinals, they're not, you can't really get anything on them. But the Patriots, you see Belichick at a press conference deliberately hiding information from reporters because the reporters think they're the ones that are the experts anyway.
True.
They get irritated with him. Who's this guy think he is?
But that's Bill. That's Bill,
Yeah.
That's how he is. What can you say?
He never answers questions.
Mm-hmm.
and Brady just comes off as arrogant to a lot of people.
Well, look,
whether he is or not,
right.
we don't know.
And
but
now,
off as that.
Now, of course, people are going to think he's arrogant. He's suing the NFL in federal court. But I don't think he's wrong doing that. I don't think he's wrong doing that.
I think Goodell is absolutely the worst commissioner any sport ever had.
I agree.
This guy is a moron. Okay, we have a situation where the quarterback allegedly cheated, broke a rule during the first half of a game.
Yep.
With the deflated footballs, and he's gonna be suspended for a third of the season, and the team loses 2 draft picks. And $1 million fine. It's off the charts.
Right.
It's absolutely off the charts.
And plus, there was no procedure to measure the pounds per square inch of the footballs. And we can go on, and we've heard on talk radio all for months and months and months about this. But up until 3 days ago, as my coworker at work pointed out, they didn't even have a procedure in place to measure the pounds per square inch of the footballs. And the quarterbacks told the ball boys how they wanted them. They wanted them roughed up with steel wool if they wanted to do whatever. And the changing the pounds per square inch, assuming it was done, which everyone who's not a Patriots fan was going, of course it was done. Okay, I'm not willing to go that far. But if it was done, it's nothing different than anybody else does in the league.
And how come the teams are in possession of the footballs? Shouldn't the NFL be in possession of them?
Absolutely.
Major League Baseball is. They're not.
That's right. The umpires are responsible for rubbing up the balls from mud. From what river is that? From a certain river.
The Charles River?
No, there's a river somewhere they take the mud from for all the baseballs, and they rub them up from some river.
Who told you that?
I got to look it up. You want me to look it up? I'll look it up.
No, I don't know. I really don't care. They take mud from a certain river?
Yes, they do.
And they rub up the baseballs with them?
Yes. I'm gonna look it up. Yeah. Can you keep our audience entertained?
Mr. Gordon is going to find out where is this like a tradition or is this a certain?
I'll tell you in a second.
Okay.
I don't know if they still do.
But anyway, the Major League Baseball is in possession of the baseballs until game time.
They're locked in the umpires' room.
Okay.
As well, they should be.
And the footballs should have been in possession of the NFL before the game also. That way this stuff never would have happened.
Right. So I have the answer.
Okay.
So
baseball rubbing mud.
Yeah, the mud originates from the New Jersey side of the Delaware River. The mud is cleaned, and this is Wikipedia, so you know that this is solid information. This has probably been vetted out and edited by countless individuals. To make sure they checked, rechecked, and checked accurate.
The scientific,
Yes. So the mud is cleaned and screened before sale.
Clean mud. We're talking about clean mud.
Each year, the owner, Jim Bintliff, visits the mud source and returns with 1,000 pounds of it to store over the winter and sells it the following baseball season. Before all Major League and minor league baseball games, an umpire rubs 6 dozen or more balls with the baseball rubbing mud to give them a rougher surface, making them easier for pitchers to grip. MLB Rule 3.01c. The rubbing mud's unique feature is it is very fine, like thick chocolate pudding. Well, I'm getting hungry. And it has been considered, quote unquote, the perfect baseball rubbing mud. Football has nothing like that. They don't have mud from any river.
They need to find a river with good mud and put this thing to bed.
Or at least find a tradition of how they measure the footballs.
How in the world did you ever find that?
I had heard that it was a certain river that the mud comes from, but I didn't realize it was one guy who basically harvests the mud and then stores in the wintertime and then sells it.
And every baseball,
yeah,
every year gets rubbed with this mud.
Well, it's a certain consistency. It's got it's got certain properties to it.
It probably has some kind of sulfur in it or something like that.
Oh, I'm sure it does.
Yeah, probably consistent with the pitcher's able to grip it better and hence the movement of the ball depending on the viscosity of the air.
I would say viscosity is a big measuring tool.
A big measuring tool, yes, indeed.
Yes, viscosity is a very important because that determines overall consistency.
Especially on a low pressure night like tonight where the viscosity is very heavy.
Yes.
We don't want a whole lot of mud on there. We want just, that fine mud where it wouldn't be way down the baseball.
Now you wonder if in Colorado when they put the baseballs in a humidor so they won't fly as much, do they do that? Yes, they do. They put the baseballs in a humidor to make them heavier.
No kidding.
Yes, they do.
I never knew any of this.
Yes.
I thought a baseball was standard.
They are, but they put them in a humidor so basically the pitcher's ERA isn't 5 runs more.
Now, what about baseballs that are used indoors versus baseballs that are used outdoors? Are they rubbed up with anything different?
All games. Yes,
they are.
Oh yeah, it said all of them.
I never knew this.
It said all of them. Yeah. So you wonder if the humidor in Colorado, changes the properties of the mud from the Delaware River.
So if CC Sabathia had some baseballs smuggled up from Tampa that might have been rubbed up a little differently because they're indoors in an air-conditioned place, he'd be cheating?
Yes. Absolutely. Why do you think they keep the balls in the umpire's room locked up? Absolutely.
So what happened was somebody in the NFL got lazy and they don't lock them up anymore.
That's right.
And Brady's going to
take the heat for the whole thing. I don't think the NFL ever locked him up.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Yeah. But
anyway, I like college football better anyway.
Okay.
I like watching college football. They play different. Every team has a different this is my excuse to boycott the NFL anyway.
I watch the Patriots. I have not in my years on this planet. I have not come around to college football yet. Not yet.
I'm not a fan of any particular team, but I like watching it because you never know what they're going to do.
Right.
It's more fun to watch. Mm-hmm. One team has more of a philosophy of offensive, other than the NFL is pretty much, a lot of them play this pretty much the same. They run the same plays, that kind of thing.
So when
it's more predictable.
Yeah.
It's more comfortable watching a
right. You know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this though, and actually our show is kind of almost ready to conclude. But so are you one of these guys or girls or whatever that because girls watch college football too?
Yeah.
That as soon as that first game is on at 11 a.m. or noon on Saturday, you're watching college football until 10 o'clock at night.
Oh no.
Okay.
I'll turn it on at 10 o'clock at night.
Oh, so you pick and choose
until I go to
yeah.
I'll instead of watching a movie or something like that, I'll watch. I'll flick around to see if there's a close game or something like that.
Sure.
That's all. I don't.
Cool. So I want to just tell our viewers about our show tonight. This show is streaming live on Ustream with just audio. We're trying something new tonight. We're also ready for call-in guests, which we're going to be lining up for a future show. And this show will also be on YouTube. And again, there's no video of us. It's just our logo. And it'll also be online as a podcast on iTunes and any podcast type application you may have on your smartphone, your iPad. So we're trying something new. We'll do video some other night, maybe our next show, but we figured we'd try audio only.
I got a question for you. I don't know if I'm just imagining things or have you ever seen so many good teams and have you ever seen so many teams that were supposed to be good that are lousy? Not just the Red Sox.
Yeah.
Seattle, Well, the White Sox are playing good now, but the White Sox, Cleveland was supposed to be
Yep.
Detroit. Well, Detroit and the White Sox look like they're improving, but a lot of people were picking Seattle to take the whole thing. They're in last place,
and you figured Detroit would be in
a lot of that
with Detroit's offense, and even though they lost Scherzer, they have Verlander, they have Price. You figure they'd be in it.
Speaking of Scherzer, Mr. Papelbon is in Washington now.
Yes, he finally got out of Philadelphia. Did he say he wanted to trade? I don't really remember that.
I don't know.
I think he's been saying it for since he got to Philadelphia.
Yeah,
he's been saying it since his last year in Boston. He wanted to go somewhere else.
Besides Mariano Rivera, can you think of anybody more successful than him as a closer?
I'd have to get back to you.
Trevor Hoffman.
Trevor Hoffman.
Yeah, he was better.
Yeah, so Papelbon saved Matt Scherzer's game today. Yep, that's his first save in a Nationals uniform, so good for him.
But he's in the top 3 or 4 probably of all time closers.
And his ERA this year is very low, under 2, which is quite impressive.
He's good.
Yeah.
And he's got that closer mentality,
Yeah. Absolutely, no question about it. Well, thanks for coming to the Central Connecticut studios. Again, we're just audio tonight, and you may be listening to this on a delay on YouTube or on your smartphone. If you have any suggestions for us, get in touch on Facebook or on Twitter, or our email address, redsoxalley@comcast.net, although you are listening to yourbostonsports.com. Again, John Corn, thanks for coming to the Central Connecticut studios.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.